Everyone, we are now recording this meeting and going live on YouTube. Good morning and welcome. My name is Kristen and I'm the Measure 110 Strategy and Engagement Manager here at the Oregon Health Authority. And I'll be assisting with facilitating today's meeting. And today we're going to be covering the Division Chapter 944 Division 020 rules, and I will turn it over to Juan to guide us through what we'll be discussing today.
Perfect, thank you. So yes, today we'll be discussing some rules. Let's take a quick full stress on how to participate. So we do have closed captioning in case you're not familiar with Zoom. Please hit the button on the right-hand side. We do have the chat function available as well. If you're having any issues, please feel free to chat me, or you can email us as well, bhrulemaking@odhsoha.oregon.gov, and so we can try and attempt to troubleshoot live. Today's agenda, so today's June 11th, 2024. I will be reviewing the proposed rules and summary, RAC participation, RAC community standards. We will then pause to take attendance of our RAC members, and then the program will be presenting the rule changes, and we will end today's RAC Rules Advisory Committee meeting by anticipated next steps, which we will present at the very end. So with that, the proposed rules for today, July 11th, 2024, will be here from 9 a.m. to 11 unless we finish early, at which point we will conclude the meeting. We're looking at rules from chapters 944, 020, 0000, and then going through 0010, 0020, 0030. We'll leave this slide a little bit briefly, but these are the conversations we're hosting today for this RAC. We will not be talking about any additional rules besides the rules being proposed today. And moving forward, RAC participation. So there are two ways to participate in today's RAC. There's a RAC member, which has a speaking role. These individuals who take part in an active conversation and represent an impacted group, such as members of CCOs, hospitals, small businesses, etc. They provide direct feedback and participate in discussion during the event. Then we have RAC observers who may be joining us from outside. You still have an impact on this Rules Advisory Committee because you can provide feedback to us by July 12th, 2024 at 5 p.m. Both RAC participants and RAC members are able to submit their feedback to us. And this is not the only time you will be able to provide feedback. The program does anticipate going to a public comment phase. So with this, please remember that this RAC includes members of a wide range of experiences. Many of you have done thousands of these, hundreds, and maybe this is your first one. So thank you, and we appreciate you participating in your, what is it, 2-hour RAC. So thank you so much for being here with us. Again, RAC members can provide feedback and propose rules in each chapters. We're going to be looking over also at the racial and fiscal impact statements. And then, again, when you are ready to provide feedback, please come off mute and state your name and affiliation at least once and provide the feedback, and we will have a dialogue. So with that, Jennifer, let's take attendance of our RAC members.
Great, thank you, Juan. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our second and final RAC for our Division 020 rules. When I call your name, please reply with here or present. We'll start with Meredith. Okay. Zeb. Melinda.
Present.
Hello, Melinda.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Sabrina.
Good morning, I'm here.
Hi, Sabrina. Welcome. Good morning. Dharma. Lakeisha. Jonathan. Onisha. And Amy. And I think I saw Ryan. Ryan, are you here?
Good morning, I'm here.
Hi, good morning, Ryan. How are you? All righty. And that's it.
Perfect, thank you. So let's get ready for some RAC. So we will be presenting the text on screen. As we go through the rules, text, and also the statements of need, please raise your hand via Zoom. If online, if you're joining us by phone, please just let us know, speak up and let us know you would like to provide feedback during that section. Please remember only invited RAC members can provide feedback, but again, members of the observers, you can still send impact feedback to jennifer.poor2@oha.oregon.gov by July 12th, 2024 at 5 p.m. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to pass it over to program to show you the rules.
I just wanted to call out before we move on that Sabrina did have a question in the chat about when public comment sessions are happening.
Yes, the public sessions, it's anticipated that we will be starting the public comment in August, and it will run for 49 days. And before we end today's call, I'll give you a little snapshot of dates and important timelines for everyone who's joining us live here and for those on YouTube. Thank you, Jason.
Great. Does everyone see my screen okay? Are we good?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. All right, we're going to go through our statement of need and fiscal impact statement. I will pause after every section to see if anyone has anything to add. And we'll start with the need for rule changes. Per House Bill 2513, Oregon Health Authority is to adopt rules that establish a grant application process, a process to appeal the denial of a grant, and general criteria and requirements for the behavioral health resource networks and the grants and funding required by ORS 430.389. including rules requiring recipients of grants and funding to collect and report information necessary for the Secretary of State to conduct the financial and performance audits required by ORS 430.392. And I will pause. Does anyone have anything to add? No? Okay, great. The documents that we relied upon and where they are available are our current Chapter 944 rules, and you can always access those through the Secretary of State. And if you have any questions about where those access points are, you can always let us know and we'll help navigate. Otherwise, there is an address here to show you those rules via that website. The fiscal and economic impact statement is that the authority does not anticipate that there will be a fiscal impact from these rule changes, as these new rules clarify or align with the existing requirements or rules or are administrative in nature. And I'll pause there. Does anyone have anything to add? Okay, moving forward. As far as the statement of cost of compliance, we'll go through that statement as well. We do not believe that there will be any economic impact to state agencies, local government units, and member of the public. We do not believe that there will be any effect on small businesses. We do not believe that there will be any small businesses impacted by these rules. We do not believe that there'll be any small business impacted due to expected reporting, record keeping, and administrative activities and costs required to comply with the rules. And we don't believe that there'll be any small businesses impacted by the cost of professional services, equipment supplies, labor, and increased administration that would be required to comply with these rules. So I'll pause again and make sure that no one has anything to add. And I see a hand up. No? Maybe that's for me. Sabrina, there you are.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So the state of cost of compliance, I'm kind of confused about this. I don't remember seeing this language, or I just forgot.
Okay. This is a part of the requirements of our filing, and we are to give an estimate of whether or not we believe that small businesses will be impacted in any way. It's a part of our notice of proposed rulemaking. And Juan, I'm not sure if you want to elaborate any more on that.
Was that to me, Jennifer? I apologize. I missed the last part. No, I was just wondering. I don't remember seeing this, and so I was just really confused about where it fit into our scheme of things, but you described it well. Thank you.
Yay! Yeah, I'm glad to help, Sabrina. And Juan, if you have anything to add, just chime in, and hopefully that clarified. It's a part of our standard statements that we have to go through and answer to each of these questions. So if we don't have any other questions regarding the cost of compliance, I can move forward. Any other questions? Okay. Describe how small businesses were involved in the development of these rules. It was expected that small businesses or representatives of small business will submit comments either through the RAC or public comment phase of this rulemaking. Anything to add to that? Okay, moving forward, our racial equity statement. These rules are expected to have a positive impact on racial equity across the state as they establish uniform guidelines for grant application, review criteria, the grant approval process, and standards to appeal a denial of grant, making the process more transparent and more accessible. And I'll pause. Does anyone have anything to add to that statement? Okay. And then finally, was an administrative rule advisory RAC consulted? Yes or no? If not, why not? Our RAC meetings were held Tuesday, July 9th, 2024, and today, July 11th, 2024. And it is expected that small businesses or representatives of small business will submit comments either through the RAC or through the public comment phase of this rulemaking. And I will pause for that final piece of our statement and fiscal impact to see if anyone has any questions. Okay, great. With that being said, I'm going to hand the screen over to Kristen, who's going to go through the actual rule text.
Thanks, Jennifer. And I just need access to be able to share my screen.
Sorry, Kristen. Let me get... There you go. You should have it now. Sorry about that.
No worries. Should have checked beforehand. That is on me. So thank you, everyone. We just went through the statement of need and fiscal impact. With all these other statements, now we get into the draft rules themselves. So the first draft rule is Chapter 944, Division 020-0000. And this draft rule outlines the grant application process for the Drug Treatment and Recovery Services Funds applicants. And goes on to state that OHA must implement a grant application and award for funding entities, provide services described in the Chapter 010 rules that we discussed on Tuesday. OHA must announce the availability of the funding and provide instructions for applying. That announcement and application must include, at a minimum, a description of the fund, the available funding, the eligible services, the term of the grant, the estimated effective date and allowable cost periods, include a template grant agreement, template budget, a template declaration of covenants to secure property, if applicable, minimum application criteria, rating criteria, and application materials. An application for this funding must contain all of the information required by the Oregon Health Authority, including a detailed scope of work, documentation of an applicant's experience offering the proposed services, documentation of the applicant's experience providing these 12 required services, including trauma-informed services, culturally and linguistically specific services, culturally and linguistically responsive services, services to individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, services to individuals with physical disabilities, gender-affirming and responsive care, LGBTQIA2S+ affirming and inclusive services, youth-friendly and inclusive services, services for parents or non-traditional parents with minor children, and pregnant persons. If the applicant is a past recipient of Measure 110 funding, a detailed description of the services provided and the effectiveness with accompanying documentation, a detailed operating budget, an operating plan that includes timelines for providing services, the number of employees and contractors working under contract with the applicant, documentation showing the applicant actively works with community organizations, documentation of the applicant's experience with managing and accounting for grant funds, documentation of the applicant's experience with collecting program and individual data, whether the applicant has experience working with Excel, if an applicant is a nonprofit organization, and the registration with the Oregon Department of Justice Charitable Activities Division, current Secretary of State registration information, documentation of current insurance coverage, whether the applicant has the ability to bill Medicaid or other health insurance, documentation of historical financial information. All completed applications must be submitted to a single point of contact, and applications will be reviewed by OHA staff to determine if the applicant meets the initial minimum application criteria. Any applicant that doesn't meet that initial criteria will be notified in writing and can appeal that decision. Applicants that meet the minimum application criteria must be evaluated by a review panel established by the OHA director or their designee. The review panel must include at least 3 members of the Oversight and Accountability Council, and all members of the review panel must be screened for conflicts of interest prior to reviewing and grading applications. The review panel will make recommendations for funding decisions to the Oversight and Accountability Council. And that is the highlight of the Title 020-0000 rule. I'll pause now to see if there are any questions or comments on that section. Sabrina, I see your hand is up.
Good morning, Kristen. Yeah, I gave a lot of my my comments to this section, I believe, in a prior RAC or another meeting I was on, and so that's why I don't have anything else to add this time.
Thank you, Sabrina. I appreciate your comments from the OAC meeting. Okay, any others? We can always come back to this. Chapter 944-020-0010 includes the right review criteria for Measure 110 funding applications. OHA's grant review panel will review and evaluate each grant application based on the following criteria. If a grantee has previously received Measure 110 funding, the effectiveness of the services provided, the demonstrated commitment of the applicant to providing culturally and linguistically responsive or specific services, the demonstrated commitment of the applicant to serve communities most impacted by the war on drugs, demonstrated commitment to work with other funded organizations that compromise the burden, the demonstrated commitment to financial soundness and administrative capacity to fulfill grant requirements, feasibility and alignment of statement of work with program goals and rules, clarity of the proposed project plan, including but not limited to the number of staff and reasonability of staff salaries, the number of proposed individuals to be served in proportion to the funding request, clarity and specificity of the budget and budget narrative, and whether the grantee has adhered to all directions in the application. Each reviewer will complete an evaluation sheet for each applicant that results in a numeric score. A grant application that does not receive a minimum score will not be considered further, and the applicant will be notified in writing and can appeal that decision. Once all applications have been evaluated and scored, the review panel must meet as many times as is necessary to provide funding recommendations to the Oversight and Accountability Council. The review panel must, to the greatest extent possible, recommend at least one applicant in each service area and in each county. I will pause here to see if there are any questions or comments. Sabrina, I see your hand is up.
Yes, I was interested in, so we're going to take in consideration number or letter A now, which I mean, I think it's great, but I'm just glad to see that.
Yes, that will be one of the things that the review panel and the OAC can consider.
And I'm sorry, my hand is still up. So how are we going to measure or the demonstrated commitment of number C, the demonstrated commitment of the applicant to serve communities most impacted by the war on drugs? Just because I live in a small community, I live in a rural community, and even though we're diverse and we have a lot of people that are impacted by the war on drugs, it might look different from our community compared to, let's say, Marion County. Or
Sure.
go ahead.
No, please finish your question. Sorry.
I think I talked myself all the way through it. I think it makes sense because we're not going to be, our same competitive applications are just going to be with the same population. We're not going to be compared to a larger place. And so it would still shake out the same in the end.
That's right. Each application will be evaluated kind of on its own merits and will be compared to other applications. Are there any more questions or comments on this section? Sabrina.
Yeah, I just want to comment that I really like the way that this looks compared to, I just really like the way this looks for everybody across the state. I think this is a good direction.
Thank you, Sabrina. Okay, moving on, we can always come back to this. Excuse me, Chapter 944-020-0020 is the process for approving grants for the Drug Treatment and Recovery Fund funding. And it goes on to say that OHA will present its funding recommendations to the Oversight and Accountability Council following the process outlined in the previous title that we just reviewed, and any applicants not funded by the council will be notified in writing along with information about how to appeal that decision. I'll pause for any questions or comments. Okay, not seeing any. We can move on. And this is the last title. But this is Chapter 944-020-0030, and this outlines the appeals process for denied applications. Any applicant that was notified that they did not meet a minimum grant application criteria or did not receive a minimum evaluation score can submit a written request to the single point of contact within 5 business days after receiving a notice of denial. Any written appeal request must include the application and all application materials submitted to OHA, and a concise statement explaining why the applicant believes they meet the minimum application criteria or should have received a higher evaluation score. The OHA director or their designee must approve or deny the request for an appeal submitted under this rule and must notify the applicant in writing of that decision to approve or deny the requested appeal within 10 business days. That decision will be final. If an applicant was notified that they were not funded by the Oversight and Accountability Council, they can submit a written request to the council or the council's designee within 5 business days after receiving the notice of denial. The council must consider appeals at their next scheduled meeting and must vote to approve or deny the request for an appeal and must notify the applicant in writing of the decision to approve or deny the requested appeal within 10 business days of that decision. The council can, in its discretion, delegate decision-making authority on appeal to a subcommittee or to OHA. And the decision by the council or their designee will be final. An applicant cannot submit any additional materials other than those submitted with the application when appealing a decision, and the OHA director, their designee, the council, or their designee cannot consider additional materials when reviewing an appeal. The decision to grant an appeal in favor of the applicant for one request also does not set a precedent that will be followed by OHA or the council when evaluating subsequent requests for appeal. And I will pause there to see if there are any questions or comments. Keisha, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, sorry, I'm driving. So I'm just wondering, will this hold up the grant process again, or it will be a separate process that won't hold up the grant applications?
So the appeals process will be run separately from the awards process, but since the council does have to address any appeals at their next council meeting, it will likely add items to the OAC agenda, which could result in additional meetings. If we don't have additional meetings, it might slow things down slightly, but our goal and commitment is to not have the appeals process delay grant funding going out unnecessarily. I think it'll partially just depend on how many we actually receive, but that's the goal, to not have it delay any.
Thank you.
Welcome. That was a good question. Okay, not seeing any more hands up. I will stop sharing my screen and I can pass it on to Juan for next steps.
Perfect, thank you. So that was quick, everyone. So let me share my screen again. Perfect, you are seeing the last slide that you saw. So now let's move it forward. Okay, so the anticipated next steps. The program will review any recommendations provided today here orally or by email. Your suggestions and edits are due to Jennifer.Poore, P-O-O-R-E, 2 at oha.oregon.gov. They are due by June 12th, 2024 at 5 p.m. The anticipated date to file the notice with Secretary of State will be August. We anticipate public comment to begin on August 1st, 2024. The public hearing is anticipated to be on August 16th, 2024, and the public comment will close on October 2024. Then I see a comment of July. You're right. No. What did you mean, Sydney?
Comments are due by tomorrow, July 12th.
Oh, I apologize. There you go.
That's okay.
July 12th, 2020.
No worries.
Thank you. Yes, that's my typo. I apologize. But yes, suggestions and edits are due to jennifer.poore2@oha.oregon.gov by July 12th, 2024 at 5 p.m. And our public hearings, or public comments, I think there was a question. It's going to be very long. If you would like to attend orally and provide oral comments at the public hearing, you're welcome to do so on August 16th. We'll be advertising this once we have time. Public comment will close until October 2nd. So if you're not able to join the public hearing virtually, you can still submit it via email. The anticipated effective date of these rules when they go into effect will be November in 2024. That is our calendar. Anyone has any questions, suggestions, thoughts, or maybe corrections on my typos? Not seeing anyone, I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Juan, and thank
Thank you,
you
Juan.
to everyone who participated. That's, I think, concludes our second BRAC. So thank you, everyone, and hope you have a great rest of
Recording
your day.
stopped.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.
Thanks. Bye.